All right, welcome. So obviously a slightly different setup than usual. I'm in New York right now. IBM invited me here to show off all of their new AI technology, and I'm going to have a video on that coming soon. But for today, let's get right into our first story. OpenAI just released their own agentic framework, open source, and this is both a surprise and not a surprise because if you remember just a week ago, they released ChatGPT Canvas, and that was a huge upgrade to their interface. And why are these things similar? Well, if you think about OpenAI as a platform company, essentially providing the pipes for intelligence, they've talked about only doing that. But now it's becoming more and more obvious that they're going upstream. And I've talked on this channel a lot about platform risk, and now we're seeing it. Now they're also releasing their own agentic framework. They said that there's no promises behind it. They're not going to even promise updates to it. You get no support. So really, it's just a research project for now, but it's cool to see OpenAI get into the agent game. All right, so here it is, just a few days after release, nearly 13,000 stars. It is open source, as I mentioned. It is called Swarm, experimental educational. So all of the caveats are there. I haven't tested it out yet, but it looks to have a decent amount of functionality already. It describes itself as Swarm explores patterns that are lightweight, scalable, and highly customizable by design. Approaches similar to Swarm are best suited for situations dealing with a large number of independent capabilities and instructions that are difficult to encode into a single prompt. Essentially, agents. The Assistance API is a great option for developers looking for fully hosted threads and built-in memory management and retrieval. However, Swarm is an educational resource for developers curious to learn about multi-agent orchestration. Swarm runs almost entirely on the client and, much like Chat Completions API, does not store state between calls. Now, because it's open source, you can likely plug in any model that you want. It is not specific to OpenAI models, but I have a feeling it works best with those models. Here's an example, and oddly enough, it is about New York. What's the weather in New York? Triage assistant transfers to the weather assistant. So that's kind of unique where it's a really explicit way of transferring between agents. Transfers to the weather assistant. The weather assistant calls the tool get weather New York City, gets the answer, and then replies with it's 67 degrees in New York City. So very basic agent functionality, but cool to see them get into the game. Next, NVIDIA has delivered one of the first new chipsets to a client. And of course, the client, OpenAI, and OpenAI was the first to get one of their previous generations of chips. So OpenAI and NVIDIA are very close together. Here, Bojan says, yesterday, NVIDIA delivered one of the first B200s to OpenAI. The specs for these beasts are insane. First, let's look at this picture. I mean, it's gorgeous. Here it is. The entire front of it looks like a chip in itself, but here's some of the OpenAI team, and you can just see the massive size of this GPU. And for one of these, you can get it at the low cost of $400,000. For one. Now imagine you need a cluster of 20,000 or 50,000 or even what X.AI did in 100,000 of them. I mean, these things are essentially the cost of houses. Look at these benchmarks. So these are training performance and speed up over the H100s. Here's the H100s at 1x, and you can see the DGX B200 is 3 times faster. And inference speed gets an even bigger bump, a 15x improvement over the previous generation of chip. So this monster has 8 NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs, that is their newest generation of chips, 1,440 gigabytes of total VRAM, which is crazy, 72 petaflops training and 144 petaflops of inference. It uses 14.3 kilowatts max. It comes with 2 Intel Xeon Platinum 8570 processors, 112 cores total, and 4 terabytes of system memory. So they are starting to deliver their Blackwell chips. I heard there's a backlog and a queue for these chips for like years. So if you wanted to get your hands on one, put your name on the list.
Today's video is brought to you by Mammut. Mammut AI brings all of the best models together in one place for one price. Claude, Llama, GPT-4o, Mistral, Gemini Pro, and even GPT-01. And rather than having to pay for each of these AIs separately, you pay $10 to Mammut and they bring it all together in one place. Plus, they have image generation, Midjourney, Flux Pro, Dolly, and Stable Diffusion, again, all for $10. Models are frequently updated as soon as they're released. So be sure to check out Mammoot for access to all the best models for one low price, Mammoot.ai. That is MAMMOUTH.ai. Thanks again to Mammoot.
And let's continue about NVIDIA. They dropped a monster of a model, but I've been traveling, so I really haven't had a chance to try it out yet. They dropped a fine-tuned version of Llama 3.1 that apparently beats GPT-4o and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. It's called the Nematron 70B Instruct model, and it is really doing well on all of the benchmarks. But of course, benchmarks are useless. I want to test it myself. I'll be doing that next week. But most importantly, it can count the number of R's in strawberry, so you know it's at least that good. So it's been doing well on all the benchmarks. A lot of people have good things to say about it, and we'll see next week when I test it. Next, Google is getting into nuclear, which is kind of crazy, but also seems to be a requirement if you want to run massive supercomputers at scale. Sundar, the CEO of Google, just announced, "Today we signed a pioneering agreement to purchase clean energy in the US from Kairos Power, a leader in building small, modular nuclear reactors. It's the latest step in our history of accelerating clean energy sources and will help support AI investments." This is not the first nuclear story, even in the last month, and I love it. Nuclear power is clean, efficient, and we being the US, shut down all of our power plants after a couple accidents a few decades ago and really have not revisited it since then. We know China is building a ton of nuclear reactors, and so the fact that we're starting to get into it and it's led by private enterprise, it's good news for the US. And especially small power reactors seems to be the fad right now. And so that means smaller, more modular, spread throughout the country, possibly less risk. I actually don't know a ton about nuclear energy. Maybe that's a topic I should interview somebody on. Let me know in the comments. Next, Adobe had a bunch of announcements where a lot of people thought Adobe was on their way out, meaning dying, because all of these AI features, text to video, text to image, were going to essentially kill Adobe, but it seems like they're keeping up just fine. They're building AI functionality into their suite of products. They just released a text-to-video product that is commercially safe, as they call it, meaning it was trained on only things that they own or have rights for. Firefly Video supports text-to-video, image-to-video, and is designed for immaculate prompt coherence. They gave a bunch of examples during their Max event this week, which I didn't get a chance to attend, but really exciting stuff, and I'm glad that Adobe is able to keep up. And apparently these aren't just features that they're throwing into their product that nobody is using. Generative fill in Photoshop is apparently one of the most popular features in it already. And I demoed that, I showed it off a while ago, but it's basically you highlight a certain section of an image and you can just type in any prompt and it will change whatever you're looking at. And it was pretty impressive at the time, and I can only imagine it's gotten better since then. Next, WorldCoin, the human identification framework, has launched a bunch of new stuff and is now just called World. Drop the coin, it's cleaner. I think that was a great decision. I just interviewed, actually just today, I'm about to hit publish on an interview with Saturn and Puget, who is one of the founders of WorldCoin. Also, Sam Altman is another founder. And what World now is aiming to do is to identify humanness, to basically give everybody an identification. It's completely open source. They made a lot of news a few months ago with their Orb device, which scans your iris, and that's the way they're able to really verify that you're a human. And then they take that information, they store it in the blockchain, and you can essentially verify that you're a human anywhere on the internet. And so why would you do that? Why is that important? Well, when you have artificial intelligence that can imitate humanness online and do so at such an incredible accuracy, and you have thousands, millions, billions of agents running around the internet, it's going to be important to validate that, yes, you are human. This is me and I am human. And so that is what they aim to do. They just aim to validate if somebody is a human or not. There's an entire infrastructure that can be built on top of that technology, and I encourage you to check out my interview with Sat because it was amazing. We talked about ASI, we talked about UBI, we talked about WorldCoin, of course, and the future with superintelligence. Next, another text-to-video model is out there, and this time it is out and completely open source. And why do I say that? Well, it seems like a lot of different companies are announcing text-to-video models, Meta, OpenAI, and none of them are actually releasing them. This one is called Pyramid Flow SD3. You can find it on Hugging Face. It is based on Stable Diffusion, so Stable Diffusion continues to gain functionality. But anyways, check it out. Let me know what you think. Next, it seems everybody is getting into agents. Brett Taylor, a Silicon Valley legend who was the co-CEO of Salesforce, he's the head of the board at OpenAI. He just raised a bunch of money for his agent startup and could value it at over $4 billion. People are raising rounds with almost nothing. I don't know if that's the case for him, but if you're a name who has done something in the past and you're in AI now, you're going to raise at a huge valuation. So his startup is called Sierra, an artificial intelligence startup co-founded by former Salesforce co-CEO Brett Taylor, is raising hundreds of millions of dollars in new funding led by growth stage investor Green Oaks Capital, according to two people who have knowledge of the deal, according to the information. It triples the company's valuation, which was only $1 billion back in January. Sierra, which is selling an AI agent that can automate certain tasks such as customer service, including voice calls, was founded just over a year ago. So yeah, a $4 billion valuation sounds about right. Next, OpenAI seems to be losing a ton of money. And anybody who thinks OpenAI is dying right now, that could not be further from the truth. They will just raise more and more money, but they're just growing so fast. But they are still the hottest ticket in town in terms of VC investment. And according to the information, they have implied losses tripling to $14 billion in 2026. That is a ton of money to lose. But again, they just closed the biggest private round in history, so they have some cash reserves to burn. And all of this is going towards growing their team, building new models, doing partnerships, and acquiring new data to train those models. So there's a lot of uses for that cash, but of course, they have to be careful. Next, Anduril Industries, founded by the co-founder of Oculus, which was acquired by Meta. The founder was really fired from Meta, and then he went on with a huge chip on his shoulder to found Anduril, a defense tech company that really merges artificial intelligence into defense tech. Now just released a new product called Bolt. Bolt is a family of man-packable autonomous air vehicles featuring both ISR and munition variants. Basically, the future of warfare is with these little drones. And this drone is super capable, powered by AI. I find this technology to be really fascinating. It's a mixture of drones and artificial intelligence and other tech. And so even though it is for war, it is really cool technology that they're building. Introducing the Bolt family of man-packable autonomous vehicles featuring both ISR and munition variants, Bolt M equips ground forces with simple, lethal, and reliable precision firepower. It uses advanced autonomy software to enable operators to focus on 4 simple decisions: where to look, what to follow, how to engage, and when to strike. Basically, it's a drone packed with an explosive. You give it a target, it flies over it, it can do reconnaissance, it can do anything, and if you needed to, it could also explode. Next, SpaceX did something that seemed impossible only a year or two ago. They launched a 3-story building into the air in the form of a rocket. It went up, came back down, and was caught by 2 chopsticks mid-air. And it is so cool. Let me just play the video briefly.
We can see those chopsticks now in the air.
Now, why is this so important? Well, first of all, what used to happen with these boosters is it would go up into the air and then would fall into the ocean and basically just disintegrate. And they would have to collect the pieces and rebuild them over a long period of time. Then SpaceX started allowing these boosters to be brought back down to Earth and landing in a position where they could be reused and not just explode on impact. Now, they're actually going to be able to catch the booster, refill it, add the main cabin on top, and then launch it back into space all within a few hours. So the reusability and the speed at which we're getting these rockets back into orbit is going to accelerate greatly, and that just means that we are that much closer to becoming a multiplanetary species. Next, it seems like the tensions between Microsoft and OpenAI continue to grow. Sebastian Bubeck, who was one of the main researchers at Microsoft, just left Microsoft to go to OpenAI. So this is kind of a win for OpenAI because lately they've been having major brain drain. Bubeck was a public face of much of Microsoft's development of generative AI models over the past 2 years, according to the information. His team used special access to technology from OpenAI to pursue its research, thanks to financial and product development partnership between the companies. Again, Microsoft and OpenAI are very close. Microsoft owns about half of OpenAI. They have had a lot of friction in the past with Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, saying, even if OpenAI shut down today, we have all of their tech. We could recreate what they do, whether that's true or not. And they also have stated in public reports that they consider OpenAI to be a competitor. So it'll be interesting to see how that story plays out. Next, we have a new non-transformer model. This one is from a company called Zyphra AI, and they announced today in collaboration with NVIDIA, we bring you Zamba 2 7B. A hybrid SSM model that outperforms Mistral, Gemma, Llama 3, and other leading models in both quality and speed. It is the leading model for the less than 8 billion parameter weight class. And so here we can see the MMLU score on the left on the y-axis and the time to first token in an 8K input sequence length on the x-axis. So not only is it the fastest in terms of time to first token, but it is also the highest quality on the MMLU benchmark compared to Llama 3.1, Mistral 7B, and Gemma 7B. Now, you know how I feel about benchmarks. It's great that they're putting this benchmark out there, but I don't trust it until I actually use the model. And if you've watched this channel at all, you know that I have not had a ton of luck with non-transformers models. But either way, I'm very happy to see another open source model out there, and I'm very appreciative to Zyphra for putting it out there, doing the work, and contributing to the open source AI community. Do you want me to test this model? Of course, let me know in the comments. Next, apparently everybody's gonna get access to SearchGPT soon, and it's not really SearchGPT like we've kind of had beta access to. It's really just SearchGPT built into ChatGPT. If you search something that requires real-time information, then all of a sudden it's going to be able to search the web, which it has already kind of been able to do. So it's this weird new hybrid approach where they're using some of the tech from SearchGPT and then putting it into the ChatGPT product. Now, that makes sense because they didn't say SearchGPT was going to be an official product long-term. They just called it an experiment. But now here's some evidence that it's going to be showing up in ChatGPT for all users. Next, Mistral has dropped some incredible edge models. And you know, by watching this channel, I love edge models. I love being able to run small models on edge devices, whether that's a computer, a laptop, a phone, whatever it is. I strongly believe in a future where all of these models are very vertical, very specialized, and can run on consumer hardware. We don't need an O1 level model for 98% of use cases. And if we fine-tune these models to do the right use case at the right time, they can be really good, but also really efficient, really cost efficient as well, and have very low latency. So I really believe in that architecture of having very small models deployed on lots of different devices. And now we have some new ones from Mistral. We are proud to announce 2 state-of-the-art models for on-device computing and at-the-edge use cases. We call them Les Mistral. I hope I'm saying that right. I know I'm not. Please tell me in the comments. Mistral 3B and Mistral 8B. So these are very small models. 8B is more common, but 3B is starting to be even more common and a small model, so I definitely love it. These models set a new frontier in knowledge, common sense, reasoning, function calling, and efficiency in the sub-10B category, and can be used or tuned to a variety of uses, from orchestrating agentic workflows to creating specialist task workers. Both models support up to 128K context length, and Mistral 8B has a special interleaved sliding window attention pattern for faster and memory-efficient inference. So here are some of the benchmarks. This is Gemma 2, 2B, Llama 3.2, 3B, and Mistral 3B. As you can see, Mistral across the board is just dominating. And in the 8B or so class, we also see Mistral really just dominating, except for the human eval with Llama 3.1 8B being the winner. Now, these are not open source models as far as I can tell. Here is the pricing for it. So 10 cents per million tokens for the 8B version and 4 cents for the 3B version. It is a commercial license, and they also have a research license. So if you do want to download the model and the weights, you can apply for a research license. So not quite open source. And I just love the meme that they put out. So 2023 Mistral 7B, and then all of a sudden we have all these other incredible models: Pixtral, Mistral Small, Mistral 8B, Mistral 3B, walking Mistral 7B into the future. Next, there was a lot of controversy last week when Tesla had their event, and a lot of people figured out that the Optimus robots that they had walking around the event were not actually completely autonomous. It seems they were being teleoperated from afar, not only the movements, but the voice as well. Now, I still thought it was super cool, but in a follow-up demo, they showed a completely autonomous version of Optimus walking around the Tesla factory, basically figuring out where to go, mapping the floor, and it seems really cool. So here's a sped up example of what that looks like. So even though they got a lot of crap for basically teleoperating and using voice instead of actually a large language model, now they're showing off some of the real capabilities of autonomy with these robots. Next, and something that really has nothing to do with AI, but I thought this was really cool tech nonetheless, there's a new technology called power over skin, which essentially requires no battery. It just uses your energy from your body. So Andy Kong says, imagine a world where earbuds don't need charging. This is the vision of our research power over skin. So basically it's kind of like a battery or an energy source for a device that you can attach to your skin in some way, whether it's a ring, an earring, or something like that, that has enough energy that can power small, very efficient devices. Now, obviously it's not going to be able to power your phone, but earbuds, that's a cool use case because I actually think earbuds are one of the better form factors for artificial intelligence. And if you didn't have to worry about battery, if you could just put it in your ear and it just worked all the time and no battery was required, the second you put it in your ear, it's powered, that's really compelling. All right, next, NotebookLM, Google's kind of secret runaway hit, has some new features. And look, if you have a hit on your hands, double down on it. And that is exactly what Google is doing. So according to Logan Kilpatrick from Google, audio overviews can now be customized and steered before generating. We are rolling out NotebookLM for business. So a couple new updates for NotebookLM. I still haven't used it. I want to use it. I don't personally see a ton of value in being able to throw documents into it and then listening to a podcast about my documents, but I know a lot of other people do. And I also have an open source version that I'm cooking that I might do a tutorial for in the future. Let me know in the comments if you want to see that. All right, next, paid ChatGPT users now are getting early access to a ChatGPT Windows app. So very similar to what we've had available on Macs, you basically just hit Command Spacebar and ChatGPT pops up in a little search bar and you can just start your conversation right from there. I actually split my time between Perplexity and ChatGPT, so the more native these apps feel in my devices, the better for me. And I can't wait to be able to more quickly and more easily just hit the action button on my iPhone and have ChatGPT or Perplexity come up easily. Yes, I can do it right now, but it's slow and it's not intuitive. But if you're a Windows user and a paid ChatGPT user, you can test out these apps now. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.